Hi everyone. Here we are on page 185 of our student book, and we're starting to look at units of time. So remember that unit 5 is all about measurement. So we looked at metric units of length, volume, and mass. Now we're going to be looking at units of time. This, however, will not be in the metric system. The units of time are universal, so whether you're in the United States or in any other country, these units of time will be the same. Okay, so let's look through these. 1 minute equals how many seconds? You can try to guess these before I write them in. A lot of this is review. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. Go ahead and make sure you fill this in your math book, because this chart will help us as we work on conversions later. So even though the answers might be very obvious to you, you want to make sure you have them written down, because later when we're trying to figure out what to multiply or divide, this will make it easier for us. 1 year, 365 days. There are 52 weeks in 1 year. This, of course, would be a regular normal year, not a leap year like we had this year. 1 year has 12 months. Oh, here we go. 1 leap year has 366 days. So we have 366 days in the year 2020. Okay, convert units of time. So here's where that chart that we just did is going to come in handy. 1 day equals 24 hours. 2 days we would need to multiply to figure out how many hours. And of course, your brain is probably predicting the answer. You're probably using mental math. But I want to show you how to use this chart so that you can be very careful as you go into things that maybe you don't have memorized or aren't as easy with mental math. So 2 days, how many hours? If I go up to my chart, I am going to take the 2 and multiply it by 24, because obviously that would be 2 days. So 2 times 24 is 48. 3 times 24 is 72. And 4 times 24 is 96. So knowing what you need to multiply. Also, it's important to know if you need to multiply or divide when you're converting. So remember, anytime we multiply, we're getting a bigger number. So if you're talking about hours, obviously you want a bigger number than days. This can be confusing because days are obviously bigger, right? They're longer than hours, but our number will be bigger in the hours column because there are more hours in a day, obviously, than a day in a day. Okay, let's look over here at hours and minutes. Again, this chart up here totally helps us because right away we know what our multiplication, or maybe it would be division, problem is. It's either going to be times 60 or divided by 60. In this case, we're moving from hours to minutes, so we know that we're multiplying because there's going to be more minutes than hours. 1 times 60 equals 60. 3 times 60 equals 180. 5 times 60 equals 300. And 7 times 60 equals 420. Obviously, I didn't have these memorized, and I would normally have to work out these problems. Do not be afraid to do this. Don't hesitate. That's usually what you're going to need to do. I am going a little bit more quickly just because we have limited time on these videos. But yes, you will have to be working out your problems. Okay, looking at here, we have 3 years equals 36 months. Now this one is the first one that didn't start with 1 here. We had a 1 there and we had a 1 there. This one has a 3. So we can't say 6 times 36 because we would actually get the wrong answer. We have to go back up to our chart. How many months are in 1 year? And we see that right over here, 12 months in 1 year. So we'll be multiplying by 12. And you can test it. You can say, oh yeah, 3 times 12 does equal 36. So I know that that's what I'm doing here. 6 times 12 equals 72. 9 times 12, 108. And 12 times 12, 144. Okay, now we're going from hours to seconds. This one is a little bit different because we don't have one up here that says hours to seconds. We have how many seconds are in a minute, and then we have how many minutes are in 1 hour. So you're going to have to figure out what we would do to multiply. What do you think 60 times 60 is? Do you think it's 3,600? It is, because we're going 2 steps. So you can take the conversion number and multiply it by each other if you're taking 2 steps. Luckily, they've done that for us here. So they're showing us already, oh, okay, there's 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. So obviously, this is not a mental math situation. It might be for some of you, actually, I shouldn't say. But remember, using your mental math as a way to predict or double check your work, making sure, of course, that you always write out the problem. We've been saying that since day 1 of 4th grade, and that will never change. Okay, so 3,600 times 2 is 7,200. And after you do your work, you'll find out that if you multiply that same number by 3, we get 10,800. And by 4, we get 14,400. Okay, now at this point in the book, they're giving us conversions, but we no longer have a chart. So it says 36 minutes equals how many seconds? The first thing that we want to do is go to our chart. How many seconds are in 1 minute? Okay, there's 60. So I know that I'm either multiplying by 60 or dividing by 60. I have to decide what to do. What do you guys think? Would there be more seconds or more minutes in the same amount of time? There'd be more seconds, right? Because seconds are smaller. So if I want a bigger number here, should I multiply this by 60 or should I divide it by 60? If you said multiply it by 60, you would be correct because we want a bigger number. Multiplying gives us bigger numbers. You can set that problem up. You would get 2,160. 36 times 60. Look at number 14 here. We have 41 days and it wants to know how many hours. Again, thinking about our chart, there are 24 hours in 1 day. So I know 24 is the number that I'm working with. But still I have to decide if I'm going to multiply or divide. Well, would there be more hours or more days in a length of time? More hours, right? Definitely more hours. So if I want a bigger number, should I multiply or divide? I should multiply. So this is the problem that I would do. 41 times 24. And of course, you've got your double-digit multiplication there that you've already learned how to do. And the answer to that would be 984. So you can see now what I meant when I said we would want to have the chart. We want to be prepared to show our work. I'm obviously providing these answers for you now, but it's not just to give you the answers. It's so that you can check your work. And I'm trying to do it in an efficient amount of time as possible. So don't get the idea that I don't expect you to do your work. You must do your work. Okay, number 15. 72 hours equals how many minutes? Again, would we want a bigger number or a smaller number here? Bigger, because there's more minutes than hours in any length of time. How many minutes are in 1 hour? Let's check our chart. Aha, 60 minutes. Nope, right there. 60 minutes in 1 hour. So 72 times 60 is 4,320. 16 weeks to days. Okay. So how many days are in 1 week? 7 days are in 1 week. Okay, so I know I'm either multiplying by 7 or dividing by 7. Do I want a bigger number here or a smaller number? I want a bigger number because there would be more days than weeks. 16 times 7 will get me 112 days. Okay, number 17, 6 years, how many days? So again, looking at my chart, how many days are in 1 year? You always want to go with the basic one, by the way. The leap year is an interesting fun fact, but whenever we're doing math problems, go with your 365 because most years have 365 days in them. 6 times 365 equals 2,190. You might notice that right now they're only giving us multiplication problems. They're making it easy, kind of easing us in. 2 weeks. How many hours? Well, how many hours are in 1 week? Do we have that information? We don't. We don't have how many hours are in 1 week. But what do we have? Do we have how many days are in 1 week? Okay, so why don't I go to days first? 2 weeks times 7 equals 14. I'm going to make sure I label it because I don't want to accidentally write that for my answer. 14 days. Obviously, I'm not done yet. I have to go from days to hours. So looking back up in my conversion chart, how many hours are in 1 day? 24 hours in 1 day. Okay, so 14 times 24 is going to get me my answer. 14 times 24 is 336. So 336 hours would be our answer there. On this page, make a line plot. A line plot displays data above a number line. Jamal asked his classmates about the time they spend reading. He organized the answers in the table. So this is how many students spend 0 time reading. Good thing there's only 0 of them. How many spend 1/4 of an hour reading, 2, 1/2, etc. Remember when you make your line plots, the very first thing at the bottom that you have to do is organize what your base is going to be. So we know we have 0 here. We want to put our fractions in order. This should take you back to our fraction unit where we learned about how to make line plots with fractions. Okay, so then we have to put our x's in. 1/2 would be 5 x's. I'm getting this information from the table over here, and I'm just making an x for every number. So 2, 5, 3/4 will be 4, and 1 hour will also be 4. Okay, how many classmates did Jamal ask about time spent reading? All together, how many classmates would these add up to? 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 2. If you said 15, you would be correct. 15 classmates. What amount of time had the most responses? Half hour. So, oops, I almost wrote 5. The amount of time would be 1/2 hour. You can abbreviate hour with HR. Fiona, you're famous. Fiona asked her friends how much time they spend using a computer at home each night. Use the information in the table to make a line plot. So they've given us this table, but instead of doing a line plot in the book, you have the option to do the line plot on a separate sheet of paper, but it's the same idea. Marissa wants to know how many minutes she has practiced the piano. Label the double number line to show how many hours and minutes are related. How they are related. How many minutes has she practiced if she practices for 4 hours? So here, 1 hour. How many minutes are 1 hour? You can go ahead and look back on your chart if you need to. And then 60 times 2 is going to be 120. And then we have 180 there. And then 60 times 4 is 240. Some people's brains like this pattern that's going on here. You could think about that. I like to just multiply. I think it's easier. So I just do 1 times 60, 60, 2 times 60, 120, 3 times 60, 180, 4 times 60, 240. I think that's a little bit easier. All right, I'm going to stop this and then we'll do another one for the rest of the lesson.